Hello everyone, good morning. This is Lori Smith and this is Coffee, Trauma, Surviving Abuse podcast, and I just started doing these. This is something I was sitting around and, 5 minutes later decided to go ahead and do. I've been, talking about the subject of, especially adult survivor issues and child abuse prevention and, child abuse itself, for, since 2009 publicly. And so that's a long time. It's about 14 years. And I'm comfortable talking about this stuff. I'm comfortable hearing about it. I'm comfortable because I'm stuck in my body. I'm stuck in my skin with my memories. And it's just my reality, right? So I'm okay to look at this stuff, right? But you have to really think about what you're listening to and what you're watching, especially if you're a survivor of abuse, because you could be triggered by this stuff. And then have a miserable day, right? And spiral downward, if you're on a healing journey, and then end up going backwards on your healing journey, which you don't want to do. So you have to, make a decision whether you really want to listen to my stuff or not. I get really right down to the horrible stuff because I'm not skirting around the issues, because I don't think that does anybody any good. I listen to other survivors' material too, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just like too superficial. It's just on this. It's like putting a band-aid on the subject. It's kind of like, well, we're going to talk about this, but we're not going to really get down to what it is really all about, because it's too awful. It's too horrible. It's too disturbing, and it really is. But that's why I do what I do, because nothing's going to change unless we actually face the fact that this is it's a crime. First of all, child abuse, it's a crime, and the victims are, there's so many of us. I mean, millions upon millions, throughout the history of mankind. We're just left to just, try to get on with life, right? And really, who cares, right? Nobody, mostly. So that's why I do what I do. I wanted my body of work to really just to make a difference in this mess, and I hope that it has. In my writings, my audios, my videos, just to be one more voice out here shouting out, against, child abuse, to stop child abuse, and also for survivors of abuse to stand up and be a voice for those voices who were silenced, right? And people that can't speak out for whatever reason. So you have to make sure that you're okay to listen to this stuff. I used to always do a sort of a warning at the beginning when I was talking on, doing this stuff, and I thought I'd better do that again because I am kind of getting into stuff that's pretty heavy duty. So, you have to listen really, truly. You should be listening to anything you're listening to, with that thought in mind. But, use your own discretion, right? So, sitting around this morning, we left off yesterday. I'm just having coffee, waking up actually. And left off yesterday we talked about it's okay to not be okay, and that doesn't mean like, oh, it's great to be not okay, right? What I was setting up our topic for today, right, which is learning how to accept ourselves as we are, right? I was talking about, being broken, that, we, if it's broken, it's never going to be the way that it should have been, or that it used to be. I grew up abused, so it wasn't like I had a good life, as a young child, for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and then somebody comes into the home that is abusive, and then the child abuse starts, and then maybe I'm, was abused for a couple of years, which is horrible, right? It happens to children, and then eventually the changes happen, and then the abuse stops, right? I was just abused from birth, and so that's really all I knew, and that's all I know. I don't know a life outside of abuse, except for my adult life, which I took charge of, finally. I especially took charge of it when I started my healing journey. And, because I'd always been trying to kill myself, and I really needed to get started on my healing journey and figure out what how to help myself, because I knew what I came through. And so that's really what I call the start of my real life, is my healing journey. So, I'm dealing with the stuff that's very, very hard. I'm looking at stuff that's horrible that most people don't want to deal with. It's very difficult, right? So you have to, like I said, be, thinking about that. Like, is this going to, be helpful for you to listen to, or is this just going to bum you out, right? Because that I do not want to do. But I am tackling the honest truth about abuse and what it does, and the aftermath and the scars that it leaves behind. Not just the physical scars. We're talking the emotional scars, the psychological scars, the spiritual scars, like the whole entire thing. So it's very difficult. So I was just looking at, being this brokenness, and that sometimes things are not okay, and we have to learn how to handle it when it's not okay. How are we going to handle it? Are we going to, are we going to self-injure? Are we going to turn to drugs? Are we going to turn to alcohol? Are we going to, give up? It's like, or are we just going to go ahead and realize that, yeah, okay, I'm broken, but I got to keep going. And that sometimes it's not okay. That's all there is to it. And really, look for that. Look for those days that, it's better, right? Make those changes, and sometimes those changes are slow. I know that because sometimes it takes me forever to get myself into a better position. It seems like forever. I mean, I don't always move quickly to make sure that things get done. Sometimes I feel stuck and don't know which direction to go, to make things better. And so it's kind of, sometimes I'm sitting around in my pain for a while, or whatever situation I'm in. And it's kind of like, we got to learn how that life isn't perfect, and life isn't always going to be great, and there's always going to be something coming up. So that's what we talked about yesterday. Today I want to look at learning how, to accept ourselves, how, I did a lot of work looking at this stuff when I was doing Blog Talk Radio, and, just this whole idea of this negative, toxic feedback that may have been put on us as children or youth or whatever. It can even happen in adulthood, and how we mirror that, right? So I want to talk about that. And then also sort of, looking at how to embrace ourselves as we are, right? This marred image, right, from the abuse, this damage that's happened that we then have to somehow be okay with. I can't be okay with the abuse. I'm not going to ever be okay with abuse. Abuse is not okay. So yeah, I can't accept the abuse, right? But I'm going to have to learn how to accept myself. And I've done, like I said, I did a lot of work, and I had resources. I just went on my website, and I had put this audio blog list together for all of the different shows that I was doing, one child abuse survivor to another, and child abuse prevention is up to us, and all this, and I cataloged it by topic. Not really by topic. It's all done in a chronological order, because everything I was doing was daily broadcasts, and so I would spend weeks on a certain topic. And I thought, I needed to put topical information on these because nobody's going to know what's what, right? So I did that, and I was talking about that yesterday. And you can go to my website, and if you want to just look at stuff that's just dealing with learning how to accept ourselves, there's whole, weeks and weeks, or if not months, of stuff like that I talked about before. There, I have the resources for those on those podcasts. What I was using, what I was working with, what if I was working, because I did a lot of work using materials and programs that really helped me out, right? So this is what I'm saying. There is good information out there. You just have to search it out. You have to seek it out, and there is good help out there. So if you're struggling and you need information, you just get a hold of me. You can contact me on my YouTube, on my About section. My email address is there. You can contact me. You can leave me a message. You can contact me on Facebook. If you actually try to hook up with me on Facebook and you don't tell me who you are, and I may not accept your friend request, because I have a lot of spam kind of friend requests that are, these aren't they're just a nuisance, and so I get tired of it. And so you have, if you are interested in hooking up with me on Facebook, you can just say, hey, I saw your stuff on YouTube or whatever, and I'd like some info or whatever, right? You can contact me at my email address, like I said. So if you need help or info, be sure and get a hold of me, right? And I'd be happy to try to help in any way that I can, right? So, it's these things are hard, right? I was thinking about that yesterday with this, you know, brokenness and whatnot. It brought back this memory of um, the work that I had done on looking at the mirror image, this marred image of, okay, yeah, okay, I'm broken. It's like that glass, that mirror that gets dropped on the floor, it's shattered, you know. What are you going to do to put that thing back together? Like I was saying yesterday, you might get a couple of the bigger pieces back together, but it's never really going to be like it was, right? It's broken, man. And it's like, to sit there and say I'm not broken would be, to me, that's, okay, that's a belief system. If I believe that I'm not broken, let's say, because there's commercials out there right now about that. I saw one yesterday. I'm not broken. You know, if I wanted to say that I'm not broken, that's a fat lie. That's a false lie. I've got broken bones like you wouldn't believe, you know. I got all kinds of broken bones. And my body's, it's not really a wreck, but man, I'm telling you, I'm in a lot of pain. And I've got bad arthritis. And some of these broken bones were from car accidents, and some were not. Some were from falls. So that I did, just like recently falling and breaking my shoulder. Some were done from childhood, right? And so I have a lot of broken bones, and that's broken. You can't say, oh, I'm not broken, right? My mind was broken. My mind was totally broken, Not only was my skull busted, but my mind, my inner mind, my psyche, it was broken. Absolutely. My spirit was broken, but, people that go around trying to kill themselves or wanting to kill themselves, that's a lot of times a spiritual issue. I was dead. I knew I was dead spiritually. I was like, I should just be dead because I'm spiritually dead. That's how I felt. That's how I felt from 10 years old. And so, it's not about pretending that I'm not broken so I can get through life. That's what a lot of people are doing. That's what people do because to face the reality is just too hard. People don't want to admit that there's something wrong. That's why they allow, child abuse to continue on in the home. Somebody knows that a child's being abused, in whatever way, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, psychological abuse. Many times people won't get that child any help because, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to admit that something's wrong in the home, that there's brokenness in the home, that there's something wrong. So they just let that child be abused. They don't get that child any help. Right. It's like people live in denial and do all sorts of funny things like that. It's not funny when it's dealing with child abuse, but we can do that in anything in our life, in any part of our life. And to me, that's not reality, And I'm doing reality. So I don't care, hey, you do reality the way you have to do it. I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, which is be brutally honest with myself and with others, right? Because I think that's doing real life, right? Instead of pretending. So, I'm not pretending anything, right? So, that's sort of, it's hard, right? We have this mirrored image this possibly somebody else put on us, right? Or we might have put it on ourselves. Sorry, I've got bad allergies. And, even it doesn't matter how many allergy pills I take. It's still the same. And this time of year is like the worst. It's like because there's all the grasses. Mostly I'm allergic to grass and hay. I've got like hay fever. And there's a park just down like right below me pretty much. And it's like this, they mow it and whatnot, and all this pollen comes up, and it's just like, it's just like attack on my sinuses. So I'm really sorry, but my I do have bad allergies. It's really difficult to deal with. So, it's what I thought about was this marred image, because that was a problem for me. I talked about that yesterday. Feeling, dirty, feeling, sort of disgusting in my own skin. I really couldn't, I didn't want to embrace myself, you know what I mean? Because I really hated my skin. I hated myself. I hated my body. And I knew that I needed to learn how to you know, how to get in touch with what happened to me as a child. And, you know, because I mean, here I was at 44 years old, um, finally starting to do the work on what happened to me when I was young. And I thought, okay, I got to get to the root of what this is all about. I remembered all the stuff that I had gone through. Except for some of the CCA child sexual abuse, which I blocked out. But I had vague memories of, and actually some sharp memories of some things that happened, but I could never piece it together because of the trauma, I had kind of pushed that way, way down. And but I thought, you know, I got to get in touch with that. So I did a lot of work. Like I said, I've done a lot of work on this, all my whole healing journey, right? And it took years. It's taken years, you know. It took the better part of the 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, right in there. Probably 3 or 4 years. And then since then, you know, I'm continually kind of working on it, right? Especially when I feel like I need to revisit something, or I need to, because I'm, you know, something will come up in I'll start feeling a certain way about something, and I'll be like, oh, I think I need to do more inner child healing work, or, you know, I need to get in touch with that because I can feel something wrong. You know, something's not sitting right with me. So it's like I'm always on this healing journey. I am getting a lot better though, and so, you know, doing the work really helped out. But you know, I had to go back and get in touch with this stuff, right? What caused me to feel that way. And I mean, of course, I had all the memories of the stuff that my mother did to me, mostly. I mean, I can't maybe remember every single beating she gave me, but most of them I can because it was so traumatic. And I was angry about it, and I couldn't say anything. If I said anything, then I get beat again, right? So I was like, you know, she would just continue on the beating, like I was not allowed to display any emotion. I was just made just take it, and that's just how it was in our home. Like that's the way it was with all the siblings, you know. Like I said, we weren't allowed to cry. My mom was allowed to cry, but we were not allowed to cry. And so um, this inner rage just started to build up within me, and I started to take it out on myself, you know. And it's sort of how we mirror other people's behavior, like this toxic negative stuff, whether it's just a feedback loop in our head that somebody told us, or, you know, it could have been a teacher, it could have been a neighbor, it could have been a friend, could have been a boss, could have been anybody. It doesn't have to necessarily be a parental issue, you know, of abuse. Somebody may have planted a little evil seed, and, you know, that's what I call it, toxic negative stuff in our thinking process about ourselves. And because maybe they were our peers, or maybe they were somebody that we looked up to, or whatever in life, that sets us on this path that, you know, I guess I just don't measure up, you know. And then that starts people a lot of times on the road to a lot of self-deprecation and a lot of self-loathing, which then ends up being medicated because, you know, hey, I can't stand it, so I gotta go and I gotta do drugs, or I gotta start drinking. All because of what somebody said that keeps playing around and around and around in our heads. And, you know, that stuff is dangerous. It really is, and it's deadly. It's absolutely deadly. Your words do matter, and they really do count. And what you say, you know, you can either help someone, or you can hurt somebody by your words. You know, your words are very important. What you tell people, right? It's so important. You can say the wrong thing and screw somebody's life up completely. You can do the wrong thing and screw somebody's life up completely, but especially with children, you know, children being abused in a situation, you know, where there's nobody looking in, you know. That abuser can do whatever they want to that child. Who's looking in? Who cares, right? That's how so many of us lived our lives, just being abused, being mistreated, and, you know, there was just no help. So there's no hope, right? I mean, by the time an intervention was going to be done for me, it was already just way too late. I was just really screwed up. And, you know, I was messed up in the head big time. And so, you know, as a young person, the damage was done. Then I started to realize, like, if I want to keep a job in this life and not end up in prison, I'm going to have to straighten up my behavior. It's kind of like, I'm like, I'm gonna end up in jail, man. I'm gonna end up in prison. Or I'll never be able to keep a job. I'm gonna have to learn how to behave, right? So I had to kind of really work on my behaviors, um, you know, and it's like, I still really never ever did the right thing, and I still never ever really do on that because I stick up for myself now, and I stand up for myself, and people don't like that, right? They hate when you stand up for yourself. Too bad. I do it anyway, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm standing up for myself. I do count. I do matter. And if you don't like it, too bad, because I'm saying what I'm saying, and it's like, just I'm an advocate for myself, right? And you should be too, right? Shouldn't let people abuse us and take advantage of us. And, as children, you can't help it, right? As children, you're stuck in a situation. If you were abused as a child, it doesn't matter who the abuser is. Somebody, got a hold of you. You can't help that. That's not your fault. They chose to do that to you, right? You didn't have anything to do with it. Just because you were there gives them the right to do that? No, it really doesn't, right? Um, and they should be ashamed of themselves, whoever these people are, right? My abusers. And they're not, and they don't care. And you know what? That's okay, because I care. I learned how to care about myself. See, it took me a long time, but I'm telling you, it really took a long time. But it paid off. Because I can now sit here and say, you know what? I do count. I do matter. That's what I started out my Blog Talk Radio show with in 2009, 2010 actually. It was like the last month of 2009 I started that, or November or something like that. But I really went, like heavy duty for 2010, and I was doing like sometimes 3 broadcasts a day, like different topics. So I was busy, and that at that point it was like, you know what? Yeah, no, my voice does count. You can't shut me up anymore. You can't shut me down anymore. I can speak and I can say what I want about child abuse, and I can tell people the truth. And I was a little nervous when I first started out. Like I'm saying, it was a little nerve-wracking, because I had never really told anybody this stuff. There was a few people in my lifetime who knew a little bit about what I'd been through. My husband knew a lot because I had to fill him in. Because, there was issues I had to, deal with, and, he needed to know what was going on with me and why I was so extremely fucked up. So I thought, I gotta, because, we had a blowout. Like, if you want to read it, it's in my books. So, um, I thought, this is bullshit. 2010, I'm like, I'm speaking my truth. I really don't care. And, I put those books out. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, some of my toxic family members did not like that, right? Because I'm going public with my stuff, which is their stuff too. And I'm like, I tried to kind of not speak for them because, I'm not them, right? But I did speak for myself. And I'm like, and after those books came out, I had a few of my cousins contact me. Actually, it was one, and they said that all the cousins had been. These are people that I don't really know. These are strangers and live in Canada, and they said they had read my books and they were just crying because they just wished that we hadn't gone through all that, But they knew there was something wrong with our family because they just definitely knew that, but they never really knew exactly what it was. So by reading my books, they got filled in. And, if my other remaining family members, which is only 2 out of this whole entire family on my dad's side, it's all gone. Um, you know, my on my dad's side of the family, there was a lot of siblings, right? And my dad's children are, except for the 2, me and my sister, are dead. And there's no son to carry on the Smith name for my dad. So his line is wiped out, right? And I think that's good. I think that's right, because it was evil. Completely evil. I'm part of that, right? But I decided to do something good with myself instead of something bad, right? And so it's like, I don't care. I was like, I'm speaking my truth, and I don't care who likes it. I really don't. Because what happened to me never should have happened to me, because my mom hated me. This is the stuff they used to eat at me because I didn't care about my dad, really. Not really. I really didn't. He hurt my mom. He hurt my brothers. He hurt me. And I mean, he was psychologically unwell, right? He was schizophrenic, but he was also evil. He'd come home from church and beat my mom, because she might say something, she might open her mouth, and then she'd get beat, right? And it's like maybe she shouldn't have said anything to him. It's probably better not to. Thing is like, you know what? She probably got so tired of his garbage that she just said, "I'm gonna say it." And so the fight would always be on Sundays. Always, always a fight on Sundays with my parents, which would lead to him kicking my brother's asses because they'd have to step in and try to save my mother from him. And it's like, I mean, my mom got her digs in too. Like she would, when my dad was kind of not looking or whatever, she'd like wing something heavy at him and, hit him in the head with it. Like they were vicious, vicious people. And it's like, but the stuff that my mom did to me is what really caused me to hate myself. And it's because I needed my mom's love. That's what I thought in my mind. I loved my mom, and I cared about her. She was a victim, right? When I was a little girl, I used to see her sitting at the table, smoking her cigarettes, crying the blues, bruises and welts and, bloody nose and a fat lip or whatever, and her hair torn out. And she'd be crying, and, her life was just shit, right? Mine was too, but I could see, that this was awful, right? Something told me that's not right. And so, as a human being on the planet, how do you know this stuff? I think before I started school, I really didn't. But when I started going to school, and you start doing that, especially first grade, because I didn't go to kindergarten, I just went right into first grade. At a young age, I was 5, and because the social workers told my mom I should get into school early so I could start learning how to be around normal people. It's like people that don't try to kill you. So I started school early. And the teachers are telling you, so here's a picture of mommy, here's a picture of daddy in the car. Where do you think they're going? Oh, they're going to the park, right? And you start to, I love my mom, I love my dad. You're reading all these books and stuff, and I'm thinking, well, shit, this doesn't seem like nothing I got going on in my home. You know what I mean? But I guess this is what it's supposed to be. There's this innate thing within children to want to love. Love is there until someone kills it. It's just like any marriage. It's like any relationship with friends. Love. It's love. It starts out with some type of love, right? Whether it's, I mean, I guess there's like so many types of love, right? But I'm just talking, love in the heart, man. And that desire to want to please that person because you want that back, right? That reciprocated love. And there's that thing that parental bond really that needs to happen, right? Between especially a mother and a child, and even a father and a child. Definitely, there is this need that children, there has to be a bonding, right? And it's like, if that's not there, you're gonna be fucked, right? And that's what's wrong with people. That's it. In a nutshell. That's what's wrong with this world. We're all running around, all very, very wounded people. Now we're going to start nuking each other. Just hold on. A couple more weeks from now, I end up in some sort of a tactical nukes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, it's a world full of toxic people that really need mental and psychological help. So, my mom, because she hated me, this whole mirroring thing, in which I want to talk about this marred image, and this mirroring thing, because if people treat us horribly, we may take that and do the same, treat ourselves horribly. Like for instance, my mom hated me, like she did. She used to tell me to my face, and she made me know it. She made me feel it. Physically, she made me understand it. Even if she wouldn't have said the words, just by her actions, I knew that my mom really did not want me. I was a rape child. She told me I was born out of rape. She did not want me, right? And, proceeded to beat the shit out of me for like 17 years. So it's like, it's hard, when that love is not reciprocated, because I love my mom. And I still do today, actually. I mean, part of me hated her. For a while, I thought I hated her. And for a while, I thought I hated both of my parents. But actually, I didn't. I had to be honest with myself. I actually really loved them. That's why it hurt so goddamn bad. You know what I'm saying? If you don't love somebody, it doesn't really matter. If you love somebody, it's gonna hurt like fucking hell. You know. If they mistreat you. So yeah, that hatred my mom dished on me as a young girl, very young girl, year after year after year after year. I would kind of talk a lot about that, like in my books, as well as my Born in Hell series, the video series that I did on YouTube. Well, I put them on YouTube. It's like 27 hours. It's lengthy, but it does sort of really piece a lot of this stuff together. But the thing is I mean, because my mother hated me, then I hate me. That's part of that. It's a psychological thing that happens. It's this thing that happens where, our peers, even if it's our peers, that they don't accept us, then we start to not accept us, right? If my peer, let's say one of my peers just doesn't accept me, and just totally kind of pushes me out, and I'm looked down upon, and this is a peer that I really need that sort of that good response from, and they don't give it. Sometimes then, especially if it happens too many times or it happens several times, eventually we start to see ourselves differently. Then I may see myself as somebody that, they don't accept me, I can't accept me, right? I must be just totally fucking unacceptable, right? Then that negative feed starts coming around. Or it could be a boss issue, right? I was thinking about all this stuff yesterday. I thought, it could be a boss. If my boss doesn't accept me, my boss totally doesn't accept my work. And I busted my ass, right? I mean, I've had this happen. I think everybody's probably had a boss like that at some point. You just, and it's not like you're trying to brown nose. You just really wanted to kick ass at that job because maybe you really liked that job. Maybe it was really for you, right? But the boss is so fucked up, that they just reject it. Reject for whatever. They just don't like you. Whatever, they don't like me. Most bosses end up hating me eventually. It's true. It's absolutely true. Then all of a sudden, maybe if it happens too many times, we may be thinking, well, shit, I'm not capable. My boss doesn't think my work's any good. Runs my work down, runs me down. Happens too many times, or if it really meant something to you, then pretty soon you start taking on this shit that, yeah, I guess my work is unacceptable. I'm not capable, or whatever the issue is. It's horrible. Like most of us, have been through this stuff, even if it wasn't child abuse, right? Then if you put that on top of the child abuse, if you were abused as a child, you're carrying that negative feedback loop around, and you're carrying all the wounds and the trauma and the scars and the horrors and the anger and the rage and the shame and all of that garbage with you. And then you got some peers that just don't accept you, That just adds to the fire. Adds fuel to the fire of this self-loathing, this, and then, you got bosses that don't accept you. And then pretty soon, before you know it, you turn into drugs and alcohol because you're like, fuck that. Fuck you, right? It really is detrimental to a person, right, this stuff, but you can't help it, because this is an imperfect world with a bunch of assholes running around hurting each other, which I'm really tired of. That's why I sit kind of by myself all the time. I'm like, I can't deal with any more of that shit, fucking tired of it. So, the issue is I just do my own thing and I'm happy, right? So, this stuff is actually very, very hard to get rid of. Because you have to go back and you have to start from scratch and take a look at what happened. How did this all start? to where I started hating myself and started, hating hating who I am, my very image. I just, a lot of people are do this sort of self-loathing thing for whatever reason. They hate themselves. Maybe they hate the way that they look, because maybe somebody in their family kept telling them horrible things about the way that they look. You just never know. People are horrible like that, right? Maybe somebody in their family kept running them down about the way that they look, their physical appearance. Maybe telling them they're too fat. Maybe telling them they just don't measure up. Maybe telling them that they're ugly. Maybe telling them that they something wrong with them, right? I think almost every girl goes through this at some point in their youth. Some little evil bugger will come along and plant the seed that you just don't count because you are this or that, right? Too fat, too tall, too short, too ugly. Any number of things like that. And it's like those, especially girls, just carry that shit right around with them for the rest of their fucking life, right? And it will have an effect. This happens in families too, where families will, the parents, grandparents, maybe aunts, uncles, somebody in the family will make statements or comments like that. They're very, very hurtful and detrimental to a child, or a teen or a preteen or whatever, and cause that child to take that on and mirror that. Then they hate themselves. Then you're dealing with bulimia and anorexia, or either that or self-injury, right? Which, I mean, that stuff is self-injury, but it could be other types of self-injury, like cutting, and because they can't deal with themselves. It's like, okay, so and so, uncle, or aunt so and so, every year at Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, makes a remark about my body, right? And okay, that must mean it's true that I'm this or I'm that. So then now I can't be okay with myself. We mirror what other people will put on us, this garbage, right? And a lot of times, maybe not always, but a lot of times it causes a lot of problems, right? And really what we really needed was constructive feedback, I mean, I think it's nobody's personal business, right? How somebody looks. If somebody just wants to wear their hair a certain way, or if they want to wear certain clothes, I'm a fashion nightmare, I'll tell you that. I actually purposely choose weird clothes because I like weird clothes. I don't like to fit in. I don't want to be, in other words, I don't run like in the sheepfold with the sheep. If somebody else has to have a certain type of this or a certain type of that, okay, I gotta have this clothing, I gotta have this look, I gotta have that haircut, and I gotta have those nails. I generally go the opposite way because I'm me. I don't want to be like everybody else. I really don't. I actually do it on purpose. I don't want to be like everybody else, right? I like people to stand out. I like Sinead O'Connor. I like the Sinead O'Connors of the world, who stand out. They shave their hair, get on stage, tear up pictures and flip people off and tell them to fuck off, right? I like people that have balls and that have courage and who are not afraid to be themselves, instead of trying to be a little sheeple, right? We're not meant to be like that. God created all of us uniquely, differently. Hey, I believe in God. I don't care if you do. Doesn't matter to me if you do or not. I do, so I speak about him. And, I mean, hey, we're all created differently. That's why it's really wonderful. That's why the world is so wonderful. Because everybody's so different, right? That's we should be embracing each other's differences, not trying to squash them, right? But back to what we're talking about here for our topic. This whole issue of healing from this stuff. How do we heal and learn to accept ourselves as we are? Especially if it's hard enough as if you weren't abused, but if you were abused, it's even harder. So how do you do it, right? And you have to go back and look at what caused it first of all. Find out what the root is. I had to go back and get the roots of all this crap and really look at it seriously and heavy duty and just say, wow, okay, I got to go back and start from the beginning where this all started, you know? And I have to learn how to negate what they did to me in my mind, in this feedback loop that keeps playing around that tells me I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm all kinds of horrible names, Um, I don't count, I don't measure up. I just deserve to be dead with the other stillborn babies and all of this stuff that just keeps rolling around in my head from my past, right? That I don't measure up. I don't count. I can't do anything right. I'm stupid. You know what I mean? I'm stupid. I'm an asshole. I'm lazy. Um, you know, I'm an idiot. I'm fat. I'm ugly. Right? I'm a slut. I'm a whore. Right? And it's like, this is the kind of stuff that rolls around in my head from what these people told me, right? My parents, mostly, and a couple of other siblings who thought they should add their crap in there too. Um, I had to go back and change that negative feedback that says, you know what, I do count. I do matter. And I had all kinds of interesting stuff to do because I found it on these websites. I was doing a lot of, like I said, back especially 2010, I was doing a lot of work and actually using the survivor manuals and also website information that was very helpful. And I actually started to put sticky notes all over my bathroom mirror so that when I would get ready in the morning and yeah, because I was working at the time and I'd have to, I'd be in there getting ready to go for the day. And I'd be reading these sticky notes. I do matter. Because I forced myself to read them every day when I was in there. I do matter. I do count. Okay? I did not deserve to be abused. Okay. And whatever I wanted to sort of reinforce, I'd put on these sticky notes and I'd stick them on my mirror in the bathroom. I had them a few other places too sometimes. Like I'd have them on the cabinet doors in the kitchen, places like that. And I'd repeat this stuff. And I started to believe it. I literally started to believe it. I'm like, wow, I do count. I really do count. I do matter. I did not deserve to be treated like that. Right. I started to care about myself. I started to have compassion for myself instead of self-loathing and wanting to self-injure and hurt myself all the time. I started to realize like that should have never happened to me. Right. And that I was none of those things that they told me. I was none of those things. And I've had to fight this my whole life, right? Even with bosses saying horrible things to me. I've had lots of horrible bosses. I've had a few good bosses, I could say, that were really, really good. I've had horrible, horrible bosses that I actually hate. I really do. I hate them with every fiber of my being for making me feel the way that I felt when I was a child being abused. Right. You have a choice. You have a choice in this life to use your words correctly. You have a choice. You can make that choice every single time you open up your goddamn mouth. How are you going to make somebody feel today? We have a choice. I can do the same, and that's why when I deal with people, I watch every single word I'm saying. It's very important. You have the power to uplift a person, or you have the power in your tongue to destroy a person, right? And I mean, I wasn't always like that. Let me tell you. I have, until I started my healing journey and getting my shit straight, I was a mirror image of my mother in that department. I could destroy people with my mouth, with my words. And I've done it. And I regret it, you know. In my youth, I mean, especially 20, 21, 19, 20, 21, right in there, where I was just so fucked up. I mean, I was fucked up, right? I have no one to blame for my behavior except for me at that point as an adult, right? But I really had no clue how to be a decent human being at that point. I said some horrible things to people. I've done it, you know, and I've also been recipient of it. And it's like, of course, when I got older, I decided I should try to be a better person. It's like, but the thing is, until I did my healing journey and really worked through this stuff and realized, like, oh my God, the detrimental situation that this stuff causes, right? So now I'm very, very careful with what I tell people, what I say to people. If I don't have something, I want to uplift people, not hurt people. People have been through enough pain. People have had enough trauma. People have had enough troubles, man. We should do that for other people, right? If we can, uplift them, right? So this marred image, from whatever it is that caused us to be this way, this marred image of ourself that causes us then to hate ourselves, or whatever, feel that we just don't measure up, or whatever the situation is, to this negative, destructive feedback. We need to learn how to embrace ourselves like we really do. We need to learn how to love ourselves regardless of our imperfections that we think we may have, right? Obviously, we're not perfect. We're not going to be perfect because there's no such thing. But for me, I'm okay. For you, you're okay. In other words, we kind of are perfect in a way. I'm the perfect me. I was before all of this wounding started. When I was just this little baby coming out, into the world. And had I been treated right, and had I been treated with love and care and respect, I would have had a whole lot better chance of being a better person, you know what I mean, and being a decent person, and, having a decent life, right? And knowing who I am and understanding who I am. That's and knowing my place in the world, and to walk humbly, and to, it's kind of like, we're these beings of light trapped in this skin, which we really are. And, we, to go out and just, don't even pay attention to the skin, but just realize that every time we touch something, we exchange this light energy. We have the power to direct that light energy, the positive light energy, around everything that we touch, right? And I think people who have good childhoods, who are brought up properly, with love and care and concern, and taught, the proper way to behave, and given good advice and helped out along the way. I've actually never met anybody like that, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like that. I'm absolutely sure of it. They pass that on most likely to their offspring. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? Not beating on your child, kicking them into a corner, beating on them just about every day, or at least every other day, spitting on them, telling them that they're just shit, and they never should have been born, as you're beating on them, with whatever they have in their hands or with their fists, and just traumatizing that child, right? That was me. In the meantime, I'm told I have to smile, right? And I mean, the social workers knew about all this shit. We had intervention done. My parents were brought up on child abuse charges, man. And it's like, I'm told I have to smile, right? I get another beating. My mother'd be like, you put a goddamn smile on your face right now, or I'm going to come over there and and I'm like, oh, Jesus, I better smile because even though I just got my ass kicked, I'll get it kicked again if I don't put a smile on my face. Okay, Mommy, I'm smiling. See my smile? It's like, okay, all right, I'm fucking smiling. And so, you go through life and you can smile, right? No problem. You can smile, you can get through the day, right? Put on a smile, put on a smiley face, right? In the meantime, you're just a gaping wound behind that smile. And people are always trying to put a band-aid on it, but it's fucking gaping and it's bleeding out, man. And this is where a lot of us have been, right? And I realized, like, I didn't deserve any of that, right? None of it. Even though some of my families will tell me that I deserve that. Some of my siblings would tell me that I actually deserve that, but no, I didn't deserve that. Neither did you. So we have to learn how to love ourselves, honest to God. And we have to learn how to embrace ourselves, regardless of what they said or did, or what we think about ourselves. Self-love, healthy self-love, and care. So we'll pick this up probably. I don't know if I'm going to do a show tomorrow because it's the weekend. I think I'm going to. I'll probably pick that up on Monday, right? And so, I just want to. I'm going to. I was looking at my poetry. I want to read maybe a couple of my poems. These poems just came to me. Like, I didn't even think about them when I wrote them. Because I was doing my healing work and all of this stuff was just coming. That's why I wrote my books. I wrote poetry, short little writings, things like this. And started actually, because it was part of my healing journey, to draw, sketch out some of the scenes of abuse that I suffered. And so it was very, very helpful for me. And you can find this on my website, Born in Hell. It's actually authorloriannsmith.weebly.com. That's my website. But if you type into the browser Born in Hell, Lori Smith, it'll come up. And it's under my poem section. And here's one, Summertime. I'm always triggered in the summertime. Like, I'm triggered right now. Maybe that's why I'm kind of doing these shows, is to help myself. Hopefully it's helping somebody else. Because summertime triggers me, because that's a lot of the abuse took place this summer, because I was home with my mother, right? Well, and my dad, right? But, and my brother, right? Who sexually abused me. But mostly, for many, 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 many summers, I was home with my mother. And, trying to escape beatings. It's like, she was a horrible woman, man. Another summer day. Here we go. This is a poem that I wrote not that long ago, actually. Hiding on the corner, hoping you won't see me, 'cause I got nowhere to run, got nowhere to turn. I stay there for a long time, sun begins to fade, heart still pumping big time, hands are cold and sweaty, and I'm still so afraid of you and what you're gonna do to me when I get home. Should I run or should I stay? I'm down on my knees, but I don't pray. Slowly I get up and cross the road. Skies are dark now, I guess I'll go home. Tears start to come, but I don't let them fall. My legs get weak as I approach the front door. Slowly go inside and take whatever's in store for me. Just another summer day. I wrote that on September 6, 2018. Summertime for me is a little bit kind of triggering. And so, I'll do stuff like this. I'll write poetry or, whatever. And it's I sort of do more healing work in the summer actually than I do in the winter because I'm more triggered, right? And so I wish you a good day. If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, you need to reach out. You need to get help. Like, if you can't cope and you think you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to hurt somebody else, you're in crisis and you need to call a crisis line. Right? Because I have control of myself. Today, it's Friday. I'm going to go have a good day. That's why I can do this, because I can compartmentalize this stuff. Like, I'm not going to sit around depressed all day, and I don't want you to either. We all have our own shit we have to work through, right? But if you're listening to me and you think, oh my God, she's going to, is she going to be okay? Is she going to be sitting there like all bummed out all day? And the answer is no. Because this is how I allow myself to heal. I do it in chunks and pieces. Because I want to do real life too. I'm an adult. I'm almost 60 now, which really sucks. But I'm actually still not all that bad looking for 60. And I've learned how to love myself. And I'm going to do something good today. I'll do something fun. I'll also probably be checking the news because the nukes are just about ready to fly. I also pray. I'm a Christian, and I spend a lot of time in prayer. Spiritually, I'm very well. Emotionally, I've done a lot of work. I'm getting a lot better. Actually, I would say I'm very well emotionally. Psychologically, I'm very well. I still, like I said, I still keep those suicidal ideation stuff around because it's just familiar. It's like it's what I do, right? I've just been doing it for so long. It's kind of still comes back, but I don't do it at every day. It's generally if something's really going downhill, that thought will cross my mind, and I'll be like, wow. And then I'll be like, no, we're going to let that go because we're sticking it out because that's what I want you to do. Right? I'm going to read one more poem. This is called My Victory, and this poem I wrote, it's actually been published in a few different books, in other people's books. And other people have taken it and put it on certain things that they were working on because they liked it, which I think is really cool. They asked me first if they could take it and use it. I said no problem. My Victory. You chose your weapons, leaving me no shield, no protection, no safety, a prisoner in your lair. It was your fancy and your delight to watch me cower and tremble, not able to fight. You waged war and brutality against me, a small child. Bruised, battered, bloodied, you chanted your victory shout. Believing you had won the battle, over time you fell. Death, insanity, madness overtook you, and your frame returned to dust. A small wounded child grew amongst the thorns, and she learned along the path from teachers wise and true. And they taught her to learn to love herself, taught her to love others. They planted a spark of light within that grew as time moved on. Today that small girl is grown and stands tall. She faced her demons, faced her death, and learned to love and live. I wrote that in 2012. My victory, man. It's my victory. And I'm sticking it out. And I don't care how hard it gets. And like I said, I could be dragged down the street. I don't care, man. Tortured, I don't care. I'm sticking it out. Doesn't matter to me what this next part of my life is. I'm sticking it out. I'm doing it. Because it's my victory. I win. They couldn't kill me. They tried. And they couldn't even get me to kill myself. This is what I want you to do, is stick it out. And have your victory, right? And be able to sit back at the end of the day knowing that, they tried to win that battle, but they lost. And we win because we're sticking it out and we're getting help and we're learning how to do life, how to love ourselves, how to love other people, right? And how to have a good life, right? Regardless of whatever's going on around us. That's strength, right? There's strength in that. And the teacher's wise and true is my friend Desiree, her mom BJ, and my friend Desiree's dad Olin, who really touched my heart when I was young. They're the people I talk about all the time that wanted to do interventions for me. They used to let me stay at their house, and they just pick me up, and I didn't have any clothes with me. They'd let me use their daughter's clothes, and we were pretty well. Well, she was a couple years older than me, but we were almost the same size, and they'd do my laundry. Like they just took me in as one of their own. I did get to experience what it is to be loved in that environment. It always broke my heart that my own mother could not do that for me. Because I'd leave their house, I'd go back to my house, and nothing would have changed. Right? And, it's like those people planted a spark within me that I never thought really was that big of a deal until I got older. And I realized like what they had said to me, what they told me. That I needed to stop, you know, the hatred and start the love, right? Because they knew that I was going to free fall into madness, right? Hatred and rage, and they planted that little seed, right, of love. I'll never forget them, ever. I'm still in touch with them today. And, what they did for me was absolutely amazing. And I just can't thank them enough. They were there for me, man. So I want you to do the right thing by yourself today and this weekend. I want you to remember to try to incorporate some fun in there. Do something you like to do. Start a healing journey. Start something that's going to help, that's going to last, that's going to make a difference in your life, right? And also have fun, right? Have a great weekend, everybody, and take care of yourself, okay?